Want to get started? We don't have a quorum, right? Right. I,
Are you voting
I
on
don't,
anything?
what? The minutes. We have minutes, and Andrew already submitted his comments, so I think we'll vote on it next time. So, okay. Good morning, everybody. Let's get started. Calling to order the. This is the November meeting of the Safety Committee. I have to start by acknowledging that we lost a member of the MTA family last night, track worker at 34th Street Herald Square. There's work taking place, scheduled work, and there was the fellow was flagging and very much still under investigation what went wrong, but just not to start out by acknowledging Rich Davey will be here at Transit Committee to talk about where we are in the investigation, what we know. But in the meantime, there's been a safety stand down of all New York City Transit work, non-essential work. And our folks were at the hospital last night with the worker's family, and obviously they're very much in our thoughts right now. So difficult morning for most of all for those close to our colleague. But as I said, we'll have more. Pat Warren was on the scene last night. He's had a long night along with many of our brothers and sisters in labor. But as I said, more comments will be forthcoming from Rich Davey at Transit. But with that, I'd like to ask that the safety announcement be read, and we'll conduct the meeting. Obviously, it highlights the importance of this topic.
Your safety is of the foremost importance to the MTA. Therefore, we ask that you listen and adhere to the following instructions. If you witness an emergency, notify emergency personnel in the room and call 911 immediately. Please follow any audible instructions provided through the public address system or visually on screens in the event of an emergency. If an alarm sounds, wait for a public address announcement and follow instructions. If told to go to another floor or to evacuate the building, leave all unessential items behind and use stairwell A just across the main hallway or stairwell B down the hallway past the elevators. If you have a mobility disability or cannot self-evacuate, please proceed to stairwell D or E for assistance by MTA staff or emergency personnel. An automated external defibrillator, AED, for use by trained personnel is in the main hallway just past the elevators. If you need assistance during an evacuation, please tell an MTA staff member or emergency personnel. Thank you and have a safe day.
Thank you. Are there, Mr. Diodato, are there any public speakers to be heard from?
Public speakers adhere to MTA's rules of conduct and decorum. Also, in the interest of time and fairness to all speakers, we limit everyone to 2 minutes. Please be aware that there will be a warning beep to remind you that you have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks. Our first speaker will be Christopher Greif, followed by Chris Willem Drummond.
Good morning, everyone. I want to, before I say anything, my condolence. That's really upsetting to see a fellow MTA passed away, and I know the feeling because I lost a lot of my family and friends during those times, and it's emotionally upsetting. One thing I like to bring up about safety, one thing I want to make clear is, as you know, the holiday train is going to be running this Saturdays, all the Saturdays in December. Can we please have NYPD or MTA police to be on the trains or on the platform? So kids, and the little kids, as well as kids with disabilities, that's the early intervention kids, can be on feeling safe to get on the train and learn the history, have a great time. It worked very well last year, and I hope it works really well this year. My concern is as an advocate for disabilities, I like to make sure that all our young kids are learning the history and the safety of this. So we can please do that. His work is really well. And since it's the holiday season, I hope we can see more NYPD, not just near the not near the turnstiles, but on the platform, as people may act a little more cranky or the Grinch way. We want to make sure that safety is important, especially even during the night times when people are going to the tree lighting or going shopping. You know, as holiday season is just, the Christmas and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and all the holidays around the corner. We ask to please, let's get some more officers to please be out there so we can feel safe during this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Chris William Drummond, followed by Murray Bowden.
Good morning. I first like to say rest in peace. My brother's name was Hilarion Joseph, the track worker that was tragically killed today. And my condolences to his family and the crews that was involved. My name is Chris Drummond. I'm a conductor with Rapid Transit Operations. And every week, our president, Richie Davey, sends a weekly message. And I like to say to President Davey, we don't need your platitudes or your attempts to energize or inspire us. We are concerned with our safety and our well-being, a subject never mentioned in Mr. Davies' weekly message. A lot of us are convinced you, Chairman Lieber, and Richie Davis could care less about our safety. The system was already overwhelmed with homeless and mentally ill and dangerous criminals before the migrant crisis. It's been compounded. We're around mentally ill criminals every day. They're sleeping on the platform now. And just last night, 2 folks were shot, one being a teenager. The safety of our employees this winter is our concern. The winter's coming, like they say in Game of Thrones. What protocols do you have in place other than outsourcing our pain and trauma to the Corvell Corporation? The NYPD is not there. This board needs to come to that reality. They're not there. They're not making arrests. They let folks walk through the booth. I don't know why they're so apathetic. I have no idea. There are no cops. Only mentally ill, and homeless criminals await us on our trains and buses. What has to happen? So it has to be a tragedy. My brothers and sisters have to be murdered, maimed, or paralyzed. Someone's going to die out there. And anyone watching this meeting online, this body, New York City Transit, only cares about moving train. They don't care about our safety. The public is scared. We're scared. And you're doing nothing. You have to. The NYPD is not there. I'm glad you're all so fortified. We're not. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you for your remarks. Our next speaker is Murray Bowden, followed by Lisa Daglin.
My condolences to all involved. There are New York State police. They're not troopers. Any New York State police car used by the MTA must have the name trooper removed from the front of it. We all wear these jackets. The police, New York State Police, working for the MTA, must be required to wear a reflective jacket. It is, in fact, the law. If they get to break the law, why don't the rest of us get to break the law? You go to the website for New York State Police, it says New York State troopers. Where do you start? You start with the truth. The truth is they're police. The truth is, regardless of the union contract, everybody on the New York State Police working for the MTA is required by law to wear this color jacket when on the road. Who enforces it? I hate to tell you, Jono, falls to you. It's an enormous problem. If the law has to be changed, change the law. This is, in fact, the Safety Committee Safety starts with the truth. You tell the truth to the driver, everybody else will follow. If you get to break the law, why shouldn't we?
Our next speaker is Lisa Daglian, followed by Michael Cohen.
Morning. I'm Lisa Daglian, the Executive Director of the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA PCAC. First, my sincere condolences on the loss of track worker Joseph to his family and the MTA family. It really goes to show what a dangerous job it is, and both underground and above ground with the men and women in blue and yellow. But it's really, safety in the system is so critically important, and that's why this committee meeting is so important. This book is so important. This book, this safety committee book, has all of the information for all of the committees that show all of the statistics in one place for the safety and security of the MTA transit system. It would be great to have this book every month so that everybody could see what is what and everything in one place as opposed to parsed into the individual committee books. You know, I've been advocating for having this meeting every month, having it later in the day. If we get one thing out of it, having this book once a month would be really ideal, so it can all be together in one spot. Thank you for thinking about that. Bobby Deal, thank you so much for everything that you have done over the years, the many years. It's been a real pleasure working for you and knowing you. I hope you have much enjoyment in your retirement. Just give my best to Mary. And thank you, everybody, for what you do. Happy holidays.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Michael Cohen, followed by Jason Anthony.
I think it is important to increase the number of security cameras in the subway. They've already started putting them in some train cars, the security cameras, the closed circuit cameras in the subway cars, and I think they need to put them in more subway cars. Like, they have them in the latest subway cars, the R211s, but they don't have them in the subway cars that were built in the 2000s or the 1990s yet, which are a lot of subway cars in the system. And I think it'd be great to have more cameras in those and more cameras on the buses as well, so that there can be a greater record of whatever happens on buses and trains, and so that more information regarding the safety of passengers can be kept there. And I think it'd be also great if they increased the number of options for customers to report an emergency on buses or report an incident, like some sort of an intercom. Because sometimes on the buses, it'd be great if they increase the safety on there, because sometimes it's not so safe on the buses. Sometimes there's people who, for whatever reason, try to start a fight with someone on the bus or try to take something from someone on the bus. And I think it'd be great if they can increase the safety on there, just like they have on the subway, so that passengers will know that it's safe riding the buses and that they can access emergency services needed. And I'd also like to increase the presence of cops on buses, definitely have more cops riding the bus and have more people ensuring the safety of the bus ride and ensuring that people can get to their destination safely by bus and that they don't have to worry.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jason Anthony, followed by Maddie Buchis Highland.
Good morning, Jano. Good morning, Pat. Regarding safety, I'm heartbroken about the incident that occurred last night on 34th Street, Herald Square. My deepest condolences go to that brother and his family. Regarding safety, we need the NYPD to be present in Staten Island. oftentimes called the Forgotten Borough. Here's why. I take the S40 and S90 to go to and from the Amazon Fulfillment Center that's on the West Shore. Oftentimes, when I get on that bus, people don't even pay the fare. Some drivers open the rear door, and passengers are getting pushed or getting hurt. Other of my colleagues at Amazon have been posting comments on the VOA board. In other words, the voice of associate. We are aware that the MTA, in other words, Amazon has a license here in the MTA. I wonder who it is because we need more safety. Because one of these days, God forbid, I could end up in the hospital by simply being pushed by other passenger in these buses. Second, I have seen the NYPD all right in subway stations, but they're not interacting with the conductors in each train. So we need to do better, especially in this holiday season. So with that, I'll yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Maddie Buches Highland, followed by Felix Castro.
Hey, good morning, Oh, can I begin? Okay, good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I'm Matty W. Bucky's Highland. I want to speak today about safety. The first thing I would like to, I'm concerned, my deepest condolences go out to the people and the victims of these crimes. It is an epidemic that has to be contained and a cancer that has to be cured. And it's safety that is talking about. God forbid one day, I have a disability, I have autism. I could be pushed onto the tracks by a mentally ill person or someone who has a long convicted felony. It is ridiculous. I mean, people aren't going to trust the fact, they're afraid they're going to go in their own neighborhood. We need to have NYPD presence. As a son of a ex-NYPD officer, we need every station and bus. People aren't going to be safe and people aren't going to be trusting that process. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, people want to defund the police. Shame on you. I mean, what are you going to do? Anyway, I would hope that the commission, we have to have safety as a top priority. And I know Chairman Lieber knows that. Everyone knows that. Anyway, I hope I would say for the rest of the day. Thank you. God bless you and good day. Back over to you.
Thank you. Our last speaker is Felix Castro.
Everybody, first I want to give my condolences to the track worker. And as a visual impaired traveler myself, I think it is important to have a system that is both accessible and safe. My question or comment is that I don't always know where the call boxes are at the stops, especially the busier stops. I would like to know if there's a way, like on the MTA app, that I could report any concerns that I might have, or safety issues that I might have, because it's not always easy to find the call boxes or get sighted assistance from employees or police officers that might be at the stops. So I just would like to ask, is there a chat system or a helpline that I could utilize on the MTA app to report any concerns I might have? Thank you.
Okay. That's the final speaker, Mr. Diodato. Okay, just noting for everybody, the format is we don't answer questions in response to public comment, but where questions of the kind that were just raised are raised, there will be follow-up by staff, and that's the way we handle stuff routinely. So I just want to acknowledge that before we move on. Do we have a quorum, General Counsel Paige Graves? We do not. So we're not going to go for approval of the minutes. I know we'll do it next time we have a quorum, but we have received comments from at least one board member, and those will be taken into account. Mr. Warren, are there any changes to the work plan?
Yes, Chair, there is one change. We were going to brief Fair Evasion this month. We're going to do that next month in a separate venue.
And would you then move on to your report on safety and security, Mr. Warren?
Yep. Thank you. To some of the points that were brought up today, accident injury rates for both employees and customers remain below industry averages and principally flat across all the agencies. But the tragic incident that happened early this morning just highlight how we cannot take your eye off the ball and become complacent in any of this area. So my hat's off to the folks that would do this work. And to those folks that are actually out there doing the hard work of working in that environment, and they're the ones that actually implement safety when they do their work properly. And it's a credit to everyone out there that these rates are so low. I will note that bus collision rates were up last month, but considering monthly fluctuations, the average for the year is largely flat and has been holding at just under 60 incidents a month. Not surprisingly, record levels of congestion throughout the city and heightened use of bikes and scooters on the streets are significant contributing factors to bus collisions. As part of the work plan, you will find, beginning on page 44 of the committee book, information regarding our progress in closing out National Transportation Safety Board recommendations, of which 6 were closed successfully this year. This leaves 4 open. Also part of the work plan is an update on the MTA's drug and alcohol surveillance program, which can be found in the committee book on pages 32 through 43. The MTA remains a leader in the transportation community regarding deterrence of the use of illicit drugs. Our 0.34% rate of positive cases is less than half the national average, which is over 1%. And Dr. Luisi is over here sitting down, and her program is amazing, and the work that they do is just huge. And my hat's off to all that they do over there to help keep our workers safe and our customers safe. With regard to security, the MTA's focus remains unwavering. Over the year, we executed multiple initiatives, most aligned with the governor's and mayor's Cops, Cameras, and Care program, which have reduced major crimes across the system to below 2019 pre-pandemic levels. Customer survey data tells us that the most compelling story, with, for example, improvements in customer security satisfaction up about 8% on the subway over the last year, and customer satisfaction on the bus system over 70%. So these are really positive trends. As you can find, all the safety and security statistics on pages 9 through 31 of the committee book. The work plan topic that we would like to highlight today is workplace violence, which includes assaults and harassments of our employees. The MTA has steadfastly focused on this topic, and over the last year has stepped up and initiated new activities to deter violence. We have had success in bringing the overall number of incidents down. The initiatives highlighted on the next slides will describe our work to further improve our employees' working environment. Bus operators have what might be the greatest customer exposure of all of our employees and perhaps the toughest job in the MTA. They frequently interact with demanding passengers who look for special treatment, do not want to pay their fare, are generally disorderly. A couple of protection programs that we are working on include the addition of full cab enclosure around bus operators. With this system, operators would be separated from the customer and anything they might want to throw, including a punch. We are optimistic that this enhancement will be a game changer for our operators. A second program to highlight is a recent pilot where teams made up of members of both New York City Transit special inspectors, these are Eagle team members, and NYPD officers are deployed to bus clusters within the different boroughs. The idea here is that the clusters of bus stops are identified where these security teams can nimbly move between them to maximize their security presence on the various bus lines and bus clusters. These teams provide security on the buses for the operators and the customers while tackling fair enforcement challenges. Currently, teams are deployed in Kips Bay, Brooklyn, and Staten Island. We have also multiple special efforts going on to mitigate the risks of violence towards Department of Bus employees. The subway is the most used surface transportation system in the nation, and consequently, our employees encounter thousands of travelers daily. And unfortunately, within this throng of humanity, there are a few that act out against our employees and other travelers. Over the last year, as part of the COPS Cameras and Care program, many more officers were deployed to subway stations, platforms, and trains. This enhanced police presence had the effect of reducing employee assaults, reducing crime, and reducing the number of track trespass incidents. It's really been powerful. Within the subway system, our conductors can be a target of disgruntled passengers. To protect them, New York City Transit initiated a pilot to establish no standing zones on platforms where the conductor's window aligns. The no standing zone will serve as a visual cue to police and other security to keep the area clear, providing standoff for our conductors from travelers. I will also note that the addition of gate guards, who position themselves at emergency exits at a growing number of stations, provides further security presence for employees and customers at stations. Protection of our employees continues on our two commuter railroads. Metro North conductors have the most contact with customers, given that they check every passenger's ticket. Additionally, they are typically the first railroad official to attempt to address customer infractions on the system. And unsurprisingly, these efforts are sometimes met with verbal and physical abuse. To mitigate the risk to our conductors, the MTA PD significantly improved their presence by doubling the number of train patrols on the railroad over the last year. Their increased security has empowered Metro North conductors to involve our police with the hard cases that are out there. To the MTA PD's credit, they identify conductors as their platinum customers. They swiftly react to their requests, and it's really been a great tool and a great sense of security for those conductors. Another program to reduce workplace violence in Metro North is Metro North's employee de-escalation training. Metro North, as well as all our agencies, recognize that an employee's ability to extricate themselves from tense situations is a valuable tool for their toolbox. Starting from the day a conductor joins the railroad and refreshed periodically, they are instructed in reducing tensions and potential violence. Let me finish by highlighting a couple of Long Island Railroad initiatives to mitigate workplace violence. The Long Island Railroad's engagement with the labor unions and most importantly their membership has enabled the enhanced identification of workplace violence issues and challenges. Hearing firsthand which lines, which hours of the day, which stations, and which customers are problematic has been invaluable in coordinating police deployments and improving security programs. Further, understanding how encounters with recalcitrant customers come about and the kind of support customers are looking for has been game-changing in terms of mitigating risk. An example of this includes the MTA Police's removal of customers as expeditiously as possible who are in violation of rules of conduct from the train, and they conduct their official business on the platform, which takes the problem out of the train and lets the customers and the employees continue on their mission. Just one further activity I'd like to highlight is the MTA headquarters is heightened interaction with the judicial system by informing district attorneys' offices of their ability to ban customers from the MTA system for acts of violence against our employees. We further track the progress of employee assault cases as they matriculate through the criminal justice system and, where appropriate, provide input. This slide illustrates the arrests and prosecutions of just subway employees that were a victim of felony and crime. An encouraging number of arrests, 66%, illustrates that the police take their activities very seriously. You can see from the status of these prosecutions on the slide where we are on them, and we continue to track them very closely and talk to the DAs as they come to their different appointments. This concludes our presentation. If there are any questions, I'll certainly.
Before we take questions, I just want to say this is something of, it's a particular focus of my team. We are unsurprisingly, not always thrilled when the people who have committed offenses against our employees and, they're out and about faster than we think is appropriate. So we are now really carefully monitoring cases. So once the cases, we monitor what the charges are, we stay on top of the court dates, and in some cases we show up in court to interact with the judicial officials who are making decisions and make sure they understand how seriously we take cases of violence against our employees and really pushing the system to make full use of the banning provision of law that we, the MTA, along with the labor unions, MTA's labor unions, pushed for a couple of legislative sessions ago. So we're going to stay on top of this and make our voice heard in the courts to make sure that people who attack our employees or otherwise harm our employees are not walking around too soon, honestly. Mr. Albert.
Yes, thanks for the report, Pat. The enclosure of the space that bus operators occupy, has a pilot begun on any routes yet for that?
So I can let maybe Bobby Deal talk a little bit more about it, but they've done the design, they've put it in a few vehicles, they're looking at it now. It has not been put out on the road in a pilot sense yet, but we're testing it, making sure it fit. There's some safety, and so we got to work through the health departments and stuff like that so that they make sure that it meets all the OSHA standards.
And
But
visibility
just to be clear,
issues, of course.
there is a significant upgrade to the enclosure that's already been put into effect. Bobby, do you want to talk about it?
Correct. Actually, it's a full enclosure, which again will be better for the bus operator with it. It's still being evaluated on certain parts, but that's going to be coming up soon. You're welcome.
Mr. Zuckerman.
Thank you. We had a speaker earlier on from labor describing it with real frustration, his perception on our support. I know it's not the case. I've heard this group of the staff and the leadership talk about their support of safety, and it's paramount. It is not a minor topic. I do think it'd be useful, though, to hear, because I don't know exactly where we stand on two fronts data-wise. One is the number of transit police we have. I think it'd be interesting to understand where we stand with that topic, because at different times we've quote-unquote flooded the system with cops and other support to stop people from coming through the slam gates, for example. So it'd just be interesting to figure out where we are with that. Maybe that's something Rich covers in transit. And then similarly, there's a lot of commentary. Certainly we observe it as individuals, the homeless population, not just in the subway, but across the city. There are whole areas of the city where you can't walk without interacting with them on every single block. But it'd be useful, again, similarly, and maybe it's covered in transit, which I don't generally attend, to understand the homeless population that we're counting and how it's tracking, because I think it'd be you know well, Pat, that stats combat perceptions, and it'd be just helpful to hear.
All those issues are very much on the table, and we'll make sure we respond to that. Go ahead, Mr. Tessitore.
I'll be brief. I just, this issue is the most frustrating thing that I've dealt with in my career as a union leader. And as a representative of labor, I first want to say that the speaker earlier is clearly venting out of frustration, and I get it. I think, in fairness, we have to say that certainly our chairman or any agency head here does not care about safety. It's just not the right, appropriate thing to say. Why would anyone, at their level not care about safety? But we get it. We all have to do better. I just recognize a pattern of behavior in our region since COVID that I just can't explain. I mean, people say that from time to time. This is an anomaly that I just can't get my head around. The chief can arrest countless people. Out of 100 people, if 99 go home that day and suffer no consequences, what is all this work for? So I think it's at a point where it's beyond us. We're doing everything we can, and we're not going to stop. And I have a tough sell every day of my career explaining to my members that we're doing all we can. But when it continues and the behavior continues and people aren't held accountable for it, they don't see the results. I feel for that brother, but he wasn't fair in the way he portrayed it. He should be talking to his union, as all MTA employees should, and work together and do what we can to help the chief get his resources necessary, the NYPD to step up what they have to do. But it's something that goes beyond what we even have in our control with the DA offices and legislation and things along those lines. I gave a pretty passionate thing earlier in the year, if anyone remembers, the two conductors that got banged up pretty bad in Brooklyn. The conductor's still out and got a letter in the mail 2 days before Thanksgiving from a family court legal representative that they've decided not to prosecute this juvenile. You know, I get it. A young kid, you don't want to take his life away too soon, but he ruined the life of one of our employees. So I just don't get it anymore. I don't know what's fair, what's not fair. All I know is we all have to do what we can within our means to make sure that there's accountability and that people just can't go free every time we do our jobs and put them away.
Okay, well, we have to be very clear about what's going on because the public doesn't always know who's responsible for what. We're responsible for, we have control, direct control over a lot of things, and including the policing of the commuter rail system. And I know how closely your union and Long Island Railroad and the Metro North employees work with the MTA PD, who are their partners on those trains. We have a slightly different relationship with the NYPD, who makes decisions about deployment, sometimes in consultation with us, sometimes driven in part by their budgeting and their staffing realities. But we have maintained an extremely close relationship with them, and we're going to keep doing it. Yesterday, I was at the memorial mass for NYPD Transit Bureau officers who have been lost back to 1963. We are going to build that relationship because they are our partners in the system. And we have made progress, got a long way to go. The issue of the mental health population that is impacting on the city's public spaces so dramatically is less in our control. And I really urge our partners at the TW, who are very close to Mayor Adams, to continue their dialogue about what the city is doing. We have worked with the city, we will continue to work with the city, we'll continue to work with the state. But I just got to say, I don't want anyone to misunderstand, we're not totally in control of how the mental health population is managed in this city. And the governor has taken enormous steps to open up beds and otherwise to provide assistance, but we are relying on our partners at the city to continue to do more, because the mental health population, as you heard from the podium, is the principal impact to our workforce and to a lot of our customers. And we have compassion for them, and we have to handle that population appropriately and with care. But we also have to be mindful of the impacts that it's having for our workforce and the customer base. So it's something that we are passionate about and we're going to work with, but we are relying on others to a great extent. Okay. With that little fulmination, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting so that other business can proceed. Mr. Zuckerman, may I have a motion? Mr. Tessitore, second. We're in adjournment.